Hey, welcome back to another episode of 1980s Now, a weekly examination of the importance of 1980s pop culture and its influence today. My name's Will, and joining me, as always, are my friends and co-hosts, Kat and John.
Hi, guys.
Hello. Good to be here.
Taking a deep breath.
Everyone else up.
Seriously, it was this. It was the jazz hands now.
It wore
I gotta
you
do a
out.
sit-up every now and then or something.
I'm a little concerned, Will.
He's exhausted.
Hey, today
Check
we
your
are...
iron level.
Hey, our podcast episode today is coming to you live as we stream on Facebook and YouTube simultaneously, or it was recorded before a live audience.
That's what we're doing.
Live.
See, now I say that now, anything happens or I don't wind up editing the show, that's fine. It's expected with live programming, right? Well, you're hoping for it.
You're probably also trying to keep us on our best behavior, I'm guessing.
No. Again, like I said before we started recording, I never want to try to make you guys anything that you are not.
Yeah. I didn't get that memo, Kat.
Yes, no. However you are, it's just my job to then do whatever.
Wow.
Hey, on our do whatever, like air the show, like storm off.
Hey,
on today's show, we're going to be
crap you do.
We're going to be talking about the 1980s films that featured aliens. You know, those that terrified us, that warmed our hearts, those that had us watching the skies in our sketchy neighbors next door. That's a lizard person. I know it. I just know it. But also, I want to share with you at least one. There's just so many, but I want to show you one true tale of UFO sightings that was a pretty big incident in the 1980s as well. Right? Okay. Let's see. None of I got buttons here. Even there? Yeah, I do. But before that, we're going to review current news stories related to 1980s media, including an 80s star had a great night at the Academy Awards. Well, John had a bad one. Roadhouse. Roadhouse reboot gets real. The E.T. keepsake Drew Barrymore still cherishes, and Steven Spielberg's theory about the recent UFO sightings. There you go. It's all connected. There's time codes in the show notes if you'd like to skip around. Hey, I've got I've got at least one. I've just got one. I've got one announcement. Hey, this week, March 23rd through March 26th, come down to Lexington, Kentucky, and say hi, because I'll be there at the convention, the Lexington Comic Convention. It's at I just wrote it down. Where is it? Central Bank Center. But if you don't want to see me, there's any number of celebrities that you can see there, including John. I mean, this is Anson Mount's going to be there. Anson Mount. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
There's going to be My Name is Earl reunion. Jason Lee, Jamie Presley, or Ethan Suplee, which coincides with a Mallrats reunion, because add two of those folks with Kevin Smith, Jason Mewes, and Jeremy London, and you've got a big portion of the cast there. But there's both Raimis will be there. Sam and his more popular brother Ted. Right. Voice
Anson Mount is there. Are you going to get a photo op and do dueling bouffants? I would like to see that picture.
Oh yeah, I will. I should do that. I'll say I'm in the
Updo
Anson Mount hair club for men.
Oh yeah, I think he'd get a kick out of that.
Is his hair really that gray? I wonder. Is it?
Yeah,
he's got that real silver fox thing going on. Anyway, voice actors, wrestling legends, iconic comic creators, including Bob Hall and Jim Starlin, and many, many more. I'll be there hanging out with my friend who's a voice actor, Yuri Lowenthal. He'll be signing autographs, and I'll be the guy saying, "Look, there's Yuri Lowenthal." So
everybody needs a hype man.
Exactly. Yes. I'm going to be the guy doing the hype. Exactly. So come say hello this Thursday through Sunday, March 23rd through 26th at the Lexington Comic Convention. All right, that's all of that. So, hey, you know what that means. Let's get caught up on 1980s news. Which means I need the right paper. I don't need that. Okay.
Might need some for crumpling, too. Actually, not tonight, I'm sure.
Not tonight?
No paper crumpling tonight, right?
Well, I've been looking, what you're bringing up is how I usually often talk about these just bullshit pop culture websites like a giant freaking robot. And I have been keeping an eye on them lately to see if there's any stories necessary to bring to your attention that we can then, clarify.
Somehow discard immediately, right?
Yes. But it seems like they've been on, I don't want to say their best behavior, but more on the up and up, let's say.
Not like us on our worst behavior. Yeah.
I mean, they still got clickbaity type headlines, but
Yeah. Well, you need clicks.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey, as reported by CBS News, Gen X kid wins big at Oscars, with additional reporting by 1980s. Now, Gen X grown-up host remains baffled.
That's,
I just report the news.
I've been unfairly mischaracterized.
Speaking of legitimate news sources. Hey, Kiwi Kwan, look, Marcus is chiming in. He said John hates that guy.
See?
He knows.
He's believing
there.
you're garbage.
Word is traveling. I don't know what you're talking about. Kiwi Kwan,
Get it out,
look,
then we'll clarify.
in spite of what
John's
John
himself.
had
He's
said,
like, oh.
the Academy saw fit to award Kiwi Kwan the Best Supporting Actor at this year's Academy Awards for his role as Waymond Wang in Everything Everywhere All at Once, a film that we all enjoyed.
Yep.
What's super cool was after collecting his award, Kwan went to the press room where he gushed about his Goonies brothers, as he said, who had called him right before his big night to wish him luck. He said, quote, right before this night started, Corey Feldman, one of my Goonies brothers, called ahead of the ceremony. We are always bonded. We're family forever. Goonies never say die. I still don't know what to make of that dead fish, though. So there you go.
Yes.
Huh. Of course.
I'm happy he won. It's just, can we all just accept the fact that he might not have been the very best supporting actor, but we really wanted him to win because he's adorable and he's lovable and he's a national treasure. I'm okay with that if we can just accept that might be a factor. That's all.
Okay. I guess that's pretty close to what you originally said, I suppose.
I think he was great in that role, but it wasn't like, where's the damn Oscar? Like, I didn't walk out mad he didn't have an award yet. I'm just like, oh, great.
Yeah.
Is it just me or was it an amazing performance and I'm just have my head up my ass?
We now have an answer to that question.
So it was an amazing performance, and I was also correct.
There you go.
In my assessment.
Of course, Kwan's first role as a child actor was as Short Round in 1984's Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and it was just a year later that he appeared in The Goonies as Data. But as we've talked about once before on the show, by the early 2000s, despite his childhood successes, he had all but disappeared from Hollywood. Of course, we learned he was working behind the scenes. He was doing stunt to coordinating and, like, I think, second unit directing. But with Everything Everywhere All at Once, he finally got an opportunity to give acting another shot. And boy, oh boy, did it pay off.
Oh, yes.
As Kwan cried Sunday night while accepting his first Academy Award,
Oh
former
my gosh.
Goonies stars posted fond memories, words of encouragement, and more. Sean Astin, who played Mikey, of course. John wouldn't know that. Played Mikey alongside Kwan. He's kind of the main protagonist of the film.
John's not going to know any of this.
I've heard.
He wrote on Twitter, always with dignity, grace, loyalty, hope, joy, and inspiration, a forever moment, Key. I'm so happy, proud, and over the moon. Congratulations, well earned.
Aw.
And as Kathy on our Facebook here points out, Jeff Cohen was also there. Jeff Cohen, who is now an entertainment lawyer, including one of his clients is Kiwi Kwan.
Yeah.
He also played Chunk in the Goonies. He was a kid in one of the best friends of the group, John. He wore like the Hawaiian type shirt. He would do this thing called the truffle shuffle, where
Truffle shuffle. Yes,
I'm
familiar with the tropes.
Okay, all right. Somehow you know, for a guy who's never seen it, you know a lot about it.
Because people won't shut up about it. That's why.
I am just reporting the news
with zero slant or bias, as we've seen evidenced here.
Exactly. I am not a giant freaking robot.
John also hates those guys, says Marcus. Might as well be asking him about music.
But Jeff Cohen said, kudos to the iconic Michelle Yeoh and my brother Kiwi Kwan on their remarkable and well-deserved Oscar wins.
Congratulations, Kiwi.
Yeah. And if it wasn't cool enough. Now, look, I don't remember. What is the organization that's supposed to take the tally the votes and put them in an envelope and seal it? No one's supposed to know until they give it to the presenter. You know what I'm talking about? There's like someone and someone. It's like a two-named firm, accounting firm.
It's like a law firm or something, right? Dewey Cheatham and Howe, right?
Yes, exactly. So those folks, but the Academy must know, right? Because they just they have to.
They know.
For programming purposes.
Well, even if they don't know the votes, they know the way things were going into the vote, probably. So they I tend to want to believe that they do not know the final results from the law firm, but they know which way the wind's blowing, I think.
Yeah.
Because
it seems like moments like this are crafted, right? Because in addition to those, cool moments where he got these messages from his brothers, as he said,
yes.
he was also celebrated by his Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom co-star Harrison Ford, who presented the award for Best Picture.
Right? Yeah.
Come on, happenstance? I mean, Kismet, karma? No, it's a producer, right? It comes. Ford and Ford presented the cast and directors at the award and embraced Quan when he went on stage. An excited Quan jumped up and down before appearing to kiss Ford on the cheek. Yeah.
Did you see the memes of the, young, the short
round?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Feel emotions.
Next to each other. Yep.
I mean, what?
Yep.
I know we talked about it at length, but you're so cynical. You say I'm cynical.
I was going to say.
It's just in this case. Congratulations. That's I'm done.
What is it that you have against him?
Nothing against him. Just no one will acknowledge that it was a popularity vote because he's amazing and adorable, not necessarily because everybody wants him to win. Everybody wanted him to win. I'm glad he won because I wanted him to win, just not for the reasons that other people win Oscars.
John, no one has ever wielded a fanny pack the way that Kiwi Kwan did.
Yeah. That was a great scene. Yeah,
it was amazing, and also
that was great. Yep.
Craig is saying his wife is saying Price Waterhouse.
Oh yeah, Price Waterhouse.
There it is.
Yeah, the answer to that question. Yep.
Oh, and Marcus also says John is never this mean. Never this mean.
Oh, it's John Prime.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I'm one of the other ones.
Remember getting the real John?
You heard about.
You must be getting the real John. In other 1980s news, and as reported by The Independent, a bulked up Jake Gyllenhaal made a surprise appearance at UFC 285. So I just so you guys know, before I read this story, I saw the videos and I was so confused. I couldn't understand why this situation was happening.
I'm still confused.
Okay.
Even after watching and reading. Yes.
Me too. I mean, I bulked up during the pandemic and nobody did articles about me.
So wait, are you saying you don't have your pandemic abs anymore? Or
yeah, correct.
Okay. Oh man.
Dan's chiming in saying, nice to catch you live. Enjoy what you're doing. It's very late here in the UK. But a pic of Diana from V.
Woke me up. That was on the thumbnail.
I know, right? I remember as a kid having such mixed emotions about her. When that show came on.
She's a lizard, but she's cute.
But
I liked her until she ate that rodent. So what happened is an extremely bulked up Jake Gyllenhaal surprises the crowd at UFC on Friday, March 3rd at the weigh-in. The actual fight that's to go on that weekend is John Jones versus Cyril Gane in Las Vegas. But at the weigh-in is Jake Gyllenhaal. But it turns out he hasn't left acting for mixed martial arts, which is what I thought when I saw just the clips. I was like,
right.
Yeah.
What?
Let's do it away in. Right.
Yes. It turns out he was filming a scene for his new film because, as we've talked about before, he is playing the main character.
Okay.
In 1989's Roadhouse remake, that movie, which originally starred Patrick Swayze and taught us that how vulnerable our throats are. Right? It's the first time you thought, oh, I don't have to punch someone in the face. I could just rip out their larynx. I'll do that from now on.
Their what?
Larynx.
Larynx.
What?
Larynx. Larynx?
One of those is correct, so you can move on.
Come on, you got to tell me now. Larynx. Hey,
larynx, yes.
Larynx.
Larynx. How to touch it to remember. Larynx.
I think larynx was the next door neighbor on Three's Company. You're thinking of.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Sketchy neighbor. You got to keep an eye on. Gyllenhaal stars in the film alongside former UFC fighters Jay Horan and Conor McGregor. Gyllenhaal shouted at the crowd while standing on the scales, and after Horan's character was weighed, Gyllenhaal slapped his co-star. Which again,
it's like the Oscars again.
Right.
In March, another March slap. Horan later revealed that while the slap, which was Gyllenhaal's idea, was planned, it was real. quote, he went for it, no doubt. That wasn't no stunt slap. He went for it. That's what was great about it. We talked about it before, and he's super respectful. Never heard a guy more gracious about being slapped in the face. But, I mean, it's one MMA fighter.
Wonderful.
You know, he's an MMA fighter, so I guess being slapped by an actor's probably
nothing. Yeah.
Hey, I was like, is there a fly on me?
Yeah, exactly.
They'll slap me. Wah.
While being interviewed in character, the Nightcrawler actor said of his opponent, "This fucker just makes me laugh because he's a fucking joke. Let's go. Just give me the belt. Just give it to me. Hand it to me." In response, Huron's character said, "I promise you that's the one and only hit you get. I'm putting you to sleep tomorrow night." Then, to make it even more confusing to me, again, because before I read the story, this is all I was seeing. On that Saturday, March 4th, those gathered in the arena there to see an actual fight. See, instead, I don't know how they were introduced. I don't know if the audience knew they were filming a movie or not, because it looks real based on the clips that you're seeing. But this audience winds up becoming extras in this film because Gyllenhaal is brought in, introduced. I don't think it's Gyllenhaal as his character.
Okay.
And Huron's brought in, and they fight. And,
Really?
Okay.
Yes. And even though it's staged, Huron again confirmed that some of the punches really landed. And they had talked ahead of time and said, if that's what happens, that's what happens.
Okay.
This is a live teaser trailer for this forthcoming film.
Right.
Like we're getting to see a little scene from it, kind of, but in real time. That's kind of
They're trying to get people really on board because they know some people might be hesitant to see a remake, might be opposed to it somehow.
Just thinking about the original Roadhouse, I remember the Dalton character played by Patrick Swayze, at least what I remember. He comes in, he's quiet, he has his backstory, you're not sure what it is. We later learned that he's killed somebody ripping out their throat. And whatever. But I don't remember. I remember liking him pretty quickly. This sounds like Jake Gyllenhaal's version of this character is going to be kind of an asshole. Like we're going to be taught early on to not like him.
Oh.
And then he's got some work to do, I guess, to earn our respect, etc. And the audience, the characters rather. I'm guessing. What's up, John?
Yeah, he's giggling.
I'm seeing Marcus in the comments say, "I'd pay $20 to see Will give John a how do you do."
How do you do? Is that a Southern expression?
I was going to ask, what's a how do you do?
I think he wants you to punch me is what I'm hearing.
Using context clues. Well, I don't know where the larynx is.
Go for the larynx.
The lorax. I think go for the lorax.
Go for the lorax.
Go for the larynx.
The trees. Hit him in the trees.
Oh, no.
Because even in a staged fight, you could see that he's being pushed. Gyllenhaal's character is being pushed away from after he defeats his opponent, and he's still striking him and kicking him while he's on the floor. So again, he's set up to be kind of a villain of sorts, I guess, and then gonna win our hearts.
Kind of a jerk.
Anyway, there you go. All right. So hey, in other 1980s news, as reported by the Hollywood Reporter, Drew Barrymore revealed the E.T. keepsake most important to her. This is a live show. All this is going in. All the flows. Drew Barrymore revealed that her most prized possession, that she keeps it in her dressing room, and it features her as a child star alongside Oscar-winning director Steven Spielberg.
Aw.
Of course, speaking of aliens, which we're going to do in just a little moment here, she played Gertie, the little sister of Elliot, played by Henry Thomas, in the film that Spielberg directed, E.T. the Extraterrestrial. But you guys knew that already. You saw that movie.
That's what I've seen.
Okay.
Definitely seen that one. Oh, yeah.
Thank goodness.
Do you remember the dead fish scene in that one?
Right? Not necessarily. There was a dead alien at one point.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Too soon? Sorry.
That is, when you're a kid and you see that was pretty tough.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We did a backtrack about E.T. on its anniversary, maybe last year, the year before, whatever it was.
Okay.
But
22.
And I remember Drew Barrymore has only amazing memories from working on that film. And I saw it in this article. She reiterated that. But
yes.
And Spielberg really treated her not like any other actress, but almost like a daughter, like a parent figure kind of thing, and kind of nurtured her through her role. And just it's charming. So it's cool that she remembers it so fondly.
She She looked at him that way too. She said, quote, not having a dad, not having that kind of relationship with anyone, he was just so good and nurturing and kind. We still have a really wonderful relationship. I thank him because had he not chosen me, I think my life would be really different. It's crazy when you can really trace it back to that someone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
I thought that was interesting. I think that was true for Kiwi as well. Because wasn't he chosen by Steven Spielberg?
Right.
Yeah.
And over his brother. Remember his brother was the one.
Over the brother. Exactly. Over the brother. Yeah.
Oh, they should have cut to his brother in the audience. He's just fuming. The only guy angrier than John about this whole thing.
I don't know. Angela Bassett looked pretty angry.
Oh.
She might take the cake.
During a recent interview on the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, Spielberg said, for the most part, E.T. is a perfect movie. Saying, quote, it's one of the few movies I've made that I can look back at again and again. I think that's probably true. I know they tried to tweak it for that at some point. They did some. I hope that's not the canonical version now, is it? I think they went back to the original.
They undid it, right? The thing where they replaced all of the guns with walkie-talkies and all that craziness. Yeah, they reverted that.
And they added some CGI ETs running around and stuff like that too.
Oh,
But
man.
what they did finally fix in the final cut, thankfully, was not changing of any content or adding, CGI ET, but fixing like composite problems of the kids and the bicycles going in front of the moon. Where you could see print through because the technology wasn't there. They just fixed stuff. They didn't like Lucas it up and put a bunch of crazy extra characters and crap in it. So it's that's the version I watched recently, and it's the way I remember it. Just a teensy bit better with some of the effects that are a little cleaner.
Oh, cool.
Right. Oh, good. Yeah, I remember in that redo where you said they replaced the guns. The opening scene was much longer, where they had different shots of ET in the forest, etc. And it was completely like a Jabba the Hutt type, a special edition version. It was
like Rakiz is chasing him through the woods, kind of thing. That deal.
Yeah, and it's a CGI ET at times. It's shots. No. It was bad. No. Good, Scott. Good. Speaking of Spielberg being nurturing, however, do you have a comment, Kat? Sorry. Were you going to say something, Kat?
You guys glitched and I noticed when you said that Spielberg thought it was a perfect movie, John went, and I wondered what that was about. He did a little head tilt.
Oh, no, that was a positive. Like I could see that. Like a
okay,
that wasn't a That was a
I thought I wasn't sure if it was a dissent.
It's if you go up or down. You go down or you go up. It's different. So.
Oh, it was
or you just do that, you never know.
Speaking, however, of a good in the sense that Spielberg was a nurturing father to her on the set of E.T. In October of last year, Barrymore revealed that she thought her alien co-star was real.
Oh,
keep in mind she was 7 years old when she starred in the film. In an interview with her co-stars, Henry Thomas and Dee Wallace and Robert McNaughton, Barrymore said she would talk to and care for the animatronic puppet, again, believing it was real, who portrayed, the out of the world, her out of the world co-star, and quote, bring him lunch.
Oh, Reese's Pieces, maybe.
Well, Dee Wallace, of course, who played the matriarch of the family, recalled that she found Barrymore talking with E.T., and so she let director Spielberg know. And Wallace says, quote, and so Steven, from that time on, appointed 2 guys to keep E.T. alive. So whenever you came over to talk to him, he would react to you.
Wow. Man.
So many feelings.
So cute.
The one thing I remember about Barrymore in that is I remember that her "oh, give me a break" line where they're saying there's an alien, that was her. That was improvised. That wasn't in the script. That was the personality of her as a little girl. And I'm like, Spielberg is like, I'm not going to beat that with something scripted. We're using that. They just kept it.
I was wondering about a lot of that because I mean, either she's a fantastic performer, or they just let her be a kid.
Sure.
Interacting with this creature.
Well, that's what a good director does. He finds what talent does well and just lets them do that. Right. Don't try to steamroll it. And in her case, she just had all this natural charm. And I think Spielberg just let her be her. And plus she became a talented actress as well. But at that age, who knows? Right.
Well, Kathy says E.T. was good for Drew Barrymore. It was all downhill after that.
Oh, well, there's been some uphill. Right?
Yeah, certainly. Look, she became a producer, director. She's got her own TV show now.
Yeah.
I'd like to have her downhill trajectory. That'd be fun.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Kathy also says her
I would
boyfriend
show
has never seen
Letterman.
it.
I would flash Letterman if that's what it got me. No problem.
Oh,
Was this pre-pandemic or post-pandemic? Adams?
Either one.
Yeah.
Fine
Either
with
one.
me.
There you go, Letterman.
show him your Lorax.
Sing. Love it.
And
Way to go,
finally, finally in 1980s news, and speaking of Steven Spielberg and our topic today, Spielberg responds to contemporary UFO sightings. In addition to E.T., Spielberg, as we know, has directed other films featuring aliens, including Close Encounters of the Third Kind in 1977.
Wow. Oh, yeah.
And War of the Worlds more recently in 2005. So when Colbert interviewed him, as I mentioned, he took the opportunity to get to Spielberg's thoughts on the recent stories regarding UFOs, which are now known as UAPs. The response that Spielberg provided was interesting, but also optimistic. And I want to get you guys' response to this. So first, talking about, so initially he says, I think what has been coming up recently is fascinating. I don't believe we're alone in the universe. I think it's mathematically impossible that we are the only intelligent species in the cosmos. So, okay. So far, so good. At the same time, he says, it also seems impossible that someone would visit us from 400 million light years from here, unless it figures out some way of getting here through wormholes. So, and this is the part that I think is fascinating and probably only something a Hollywood movie director would come up with, like Spielberg is. His optimistic theory about what these could be then, because he's now said, look, there's probably intelligent life. They're probably not visiting us because of technological barriers, but he suggests instead, quote, what if they're not from an advanced civilization 300 million light years from here? What if it's us 500,000 years in the future that is coming back to document the second half of the 20th century and into the 21st century? End quote.
Which I tried to wrap my head around that. It almost it felt like, certainly time travel.
First of all, that's not so radical. I remember postulating that when I was 15, talking to my friends on a school bus ride. Like, maybe it's us from the future because, Back to the Future was a thing. But
did you say it like that too?
I might have. It's possible. It's possible. The other, you won't meet anybody who wants UFOs to exist more than I do. But you were talking about what Spielberg said, which is, there's so many other habitable planets out there in the universe that it's, even if there's this calculation where you distill it down to habitable and in the Goldilocks zone and whatever. But the other variable that I learned from Carl Sagan and Neil deGrasse Tyson is that time is the other crazy variable. They would also have to exist in this narrow little just blip of a window that we also exist. That is billions and billions of years across.
Excellent point. Yeah.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Exactly. There is a chance. It's just so minutely so small. So small. It's so sad.
Kathy points out the events in Star Wars were a long time ago.
Yes.
I know.
So there you go.
That's why we never met Han Solo in real life.
Yeah.
That's the only reason.
It may account for the fact that, as we're going to talk about, there's a lot of these UFO sightings, and there have been for hundreds of years. But as Hawking had predicted, no one has, or warned, no one has enslaved us yet. No one has turned us into a resource. So if it was us, or if it was from the future, there'd be an interest in keeping us, without interfering. It's kind of like Prime Directive in Star Trek. Without interfering, allowing us to go on our natural course, keep making sure we're safe and alive come the future, because we are that is us, right?
That is interesting. Yeah.
With regard to whether they would be, if aliens were to visit, they'd be more of the ET or the War of the Worlds variety. Spielberg said, I believe if any extraterrestrial civilization has journeyed all the way here, it's because of curiosity and science and not about aggression. And the fact that they've been this patient with us and haven't turned the Earth into a burned out cinder is extraordinary. Yeah, agreed.
Right. Right. If you're just coming all this way just to kill an insignificant little race on this tiny little speck in the corner of the Milky Way galaxy, they're way easier and more convenient places to dominate on the way here, I'm sure. Right. It's like, we're not that special.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I won't be able to quote it or even paraphrase it, but I saw Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about something like that recently, where You could be an advanced civilization, but the amount of sort of coordination and planning and effort and resources necessary to come here to take us over is probably even beyond, a smarter.
And what's to gain, right?
Why
Unless
bother?
yeah, who knows?
We ran out of our natural resource of humans on our planet that we feast on. Must go elsewhere.
Oh.
The natural resource of clickbait is now abundant here on Earth, so we're here to harvest it.
If it was only that. Hey, okay, so that was 19. Speaking of clickbait, no, it doesn't make any sense for a segue. If we were starting the news, it would make more sense. All right, speaking of ending clickbait, running out of clickbait. There you go.
We ran out.
That was 1980s. Okay. All right, hey, as promised, we're going to be talking about 1980s aliens and or I should say aliens in the 80s and now. Cat always tries to.
You got both parts of the title covered.
Well, yeah.
Yep.
Cat always reminds me of that when she's talking about ideas for future episodes. And here's the now part. And I'm like, oh yeah.
I have to make it more appealing.
We don't have to have a now part, Cat.
Okay. All right.
Sometimes she's like, well, what's the now part? And I'm like, we're talking about it now. Whatever. I wish this wasn't live so I could edit this. This would definitely go. Maybe
You
I'll
better
edit it
stop
anyway.
talking. Jazz hands. Jazz hands.
Anyway, I'll start all over again.
Will likes we can edit so it sounds like he won every argument.
Yeah. Eventually, it's going to sound like I'm just by myself.
It's going to sound like Cat won this one. Oh, no.
Oh, Cat made a joke. Oh, no. I have to steal it.
Let's set the context here for some of these things we want to talk to you guys about. Like I mentioned, alien stories, it turns out, have been around for hundreds of years, but, bringing it up to more modern times, the notion of a flying saucer first began in 1947 when there was this Idaho pilot, Kenneth Arnold, who spotted what he described as looked like if you were skipping a saucer across a lake. And many folks think that that's what introduced that phrase into our zeitgeist. And at the time, he said it was a bright blue-white, it was glowing bright blue-white, flying in a V formation. He saw it over Washington State's Mount Rainier. He estimated their flight speed at 1,700 miles per hour.
Wow. Okay.
But it was this account that touched off, our widespread and I would say contemporary fascination with UFOs, even though that was several decades ago at this point. But following that, two things happened. One, in the real world, we had this thing called Project Blue Book that developed, where the government was actually investigating reported UFO sightings because suddenly they were getting a lot. And they requested it over the lifetime of this project. They investigated 12,000 sightings, and there were only 701 that were left unexplained.
Oh.
Simultaneously, as life imitates art and art imitates life, pop culture started mirroring this fad, using aliens as metaphors for things that were, real life anxieties and fears, including the Cold War and nuclear annihilation, which even began back then, communist infiltration. And so you start getting films like The Day the Earth Stood Still and Invasion of the Body Snatchers, one that I love. I love that one, and I love the 70s one too.
Oh, yikes.
And as a result, you get this feedback loop, right? Which probably exists in Hollywood generally, certainly, but we could point to this as an example where in our, in our in our real lives, folks are now concerned about
in your real life, such as it's called.
Yeah, I think we're in a simulation.
No.
Folks are now concerned about aliens. And so Hollywood's making alien films, which makes people concerned about aliens, which in turn, Hollywood leverages and so on and so forth.
One of those loops.
Yeah. What I thought was interesting as I learned that throughout this time, and actually even beginning, I think like 50 or 100 years before this Kenneth Arnold incident that I told you about, folks had already been reporting, or there had been documented accounts of folks saying they had met aliens. But in those reports and the ones through the 50s and 60s and 70s, into the 70s, I suppose, we're always reporting the aliens as being friendly, just sort of a happenstance kind of, meet cute with a gray or a blue alien. And then in the 1980s, it changes.
Oh,
now we start talking about aliens as abducting us and probing us. And some of our, John looked like he was getting probed right now. What happened?
His guys.
I'm remembering a repressed memory.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. And then
nobody wants them to exist more than John.
John,
remember?
repress it harder. Repress it harder. Clench.
Okay,
but
it's gone.
What John alludes to is, in the 1980s, a lot of these quote abductions were folks recalling something that happened that was a result of a repressed memory through hypnosis or other means. There was an anonymous story of an anonymous woman named Susan who was put under hypnosis. Remembered she and her boyfriend had been abducted. Probably the most well-known is Whitley Strieber, who wrote Communion. That was a book and then a film starring Christopher Walken.
Betty and Barney Hill. I mean, they remembered it consciously and then remembered more detail under hypnosis. That's well documented.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Right. So and some folks, some of the researchers that, and not ufologists, but folks that were talking about, psychologists looking into this, like questioning why is in the 80s that suddenly we're getting abducted, where for 150 years prior we had friendly relations with the aliens. And one person did suggest that maybe it's because we had new techniques with regard to hypnosis and therapy, dealing with trauma, etc. So it doesn't necessarily say whether their experiences were real or not, but maybe how they were coming to light.
Yeah. Well, the implication is that they were not real because they were influenced by these other things. But I mean, look, I've watched Ancient Aliens. I know that there are, hieroglyphs and stuff and cave drawings that suggest, what could this mean if nothing else? But it's all implication. You can map. There's always the other outside of your group, whether it's the other tribe or it's the other nation or it's the other planet. You want to, this other at least it's not your people, right? So aliens are like this boogeyman you can throw evil on and say that's because of the other, in this case, aliens, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's a good point. Yeah.
And now we had a new other. We like, oh, well, now it's UFOs. We hadn't heard of that. That's a new other that we can map our fears onto. Right.
Yes, you're right. And in these movies, we're talking about the 50s, but certainly in the 80s as well, they become these metaphors for these sort of cathartic exercises dealing with these fears, these anxieties. And as a sort of a matter of the art of it, the film really becomes about us, not about the alien. It just, as I think as John's suggesting, in part, having this very different creature, even from a whole other world, we can now compare ourselves to. What's our humanity like in the face of this? Our anxieties, our fears. Are we going to try to kill this alien? Are we going to try to rescue it? Can we overcome these things? So, another sort of interesting thing before the 80s is I think you could divide alien movies essentially into two big categories. They were good aliens or they were bad aliens. As when we got the 80s, it became a little more nuanced. You've got subgenres underneath this science fiction category where now you've got it mixed with horror or comedy or fantasy. I found that there were about, and I think I couldn't find my notes about this, but I think there were more alien films in the 1980s than any previous or decades since.
I think that tracks. Yeah.
John's going tickety, tickety, tickety.
He's doing the math.
Yep.
Well, in the very least, I came across nearly 24 films, and I'm talking about mainstream films or films that have since become cult classics. I'm sure there's a ton of B films that you could add to this.
Sure.
That came out in the 1980s. I don't know that I'll necessarily rattle these off, but
and we're doing a deep dive on every single one, so buckle in, folks.
Countdown. We're going to do chronologically.
Man.
In half of these, it's 23 films. In half of these films, the aliens were good, and the other half they were bad.
Okay.
It's pretty split. What I thought was interesting was in about 20 of the films, the aliens are visiting here on our planet. Whereas in only 3 films, if we throw Close Encounters in there, does an alien abduct a human and take them somewhere else?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So even though we had this sort of turn about our feelings about being abducted and fears, and I've got to tell you, I was scared in the 1980s, as scared of being abducted by aliens as I was by a stranger with candy.
Wow.
Those seem like equally likely to me.
So are you including films that are science fiction based where aliens are a presupposition that they exist? Like I'm thinking Alien, for example.
Yeah.
Is that in your list of alien films, or does that happen outside the alien abduction genre that you're looking at?
No, those are outside. So I guess it would be films where we've got this fish out of water situation where aliens are, it's a first encounter type situation. So it's it's a third encounter. It's our third encounter, our first contact is what I wanted to say. Yeah.
Right.
So not a film where the aliens are already part of the canon.
Right. Which interestingly, we were the aliens in that scenario because we were invading their turf or whatever, right? Their region of space. So we were the invaders, really. But tangent, I'll let you continue.
Oh.
Turf war.
Keith says, so when is the Brady Bunch episode with the UFO and Munchkin aliens coming? Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that, right? There was didn't he write it off as a dream or something?
Oh.
Never saw that one.
Really? Oh, you know what? There was a Gilligan's Island, I think, like that too.
Oh.
Where a UFO came. Kathy asks, were you scared of nuclear war in Russia? Yeah, I was scared of everything, Kathy. Rightfully so. We were told to be afraid of these things.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so no, John, look, I'm not going to go through all these. E.T., The Thing, Starman, V, the TV movie V. We were talking about Diana on that.
Yeah.
I was scared we would be food. Absolutely. Were you guys not concerned about aliens being a threat to us?
I wasn't.
No.
I didn't.
No.
I'm not saying that they can't exist or don't. That's not it. But I just didn't really include them as something to really be concerned about. I was entertained by them in media, but I wasn't worried. I just felt like it was fiction or something I didn't have to worry about.
No. So I didn't think it was fiction, Kat, but I was also not afraid. Like I told you, nobody wants UFOs to exist more than me. Like I watched Leonard Nimoy hosting In Search Of every time it came on. I still watch reruns of that. I have every volume of Time Life's Mysteries of the Unknown book series. I love Bigfoot. I'm a crypto biology nut. All that cool stuff I want to exist. I have seen no proof of it, but I want it to because it's just so far outside of the norm. And I think the discovery of something like that, I thought this more in my youth, maybe not so more than I'm a little jaded, but discovery of a genuine someone outside of our planet has the potential to congeal all of the disparate factions on the earth because now it's not just like, oh, you're a slightly different shade of pink than me. It's like, there's other people that aren't pink at all, any color. Right. They are an amorphous blob of spikes and death, right? So now we have to come together. I just wish that was true.
Yeah, exactly.
Some kind of a thing to unite around. Wow.
So, John, you're saying when you were a kid, even you had hopes that they would be real. What scenario did you imagine? Are they coming and they're peace loving? They're offering a cure for cancer and and
just their existence, confirmation of an existence outside of us becomes eye opening. It tears down all of these social constructs that were built around humanity being the center of the universe and says, you're an insignificant also ran. Now would you like to rethink how you deal with the world and the planet and other people?
Oh, so you wanted humility.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. Okay, bring on the aliens.
When I was a kid, like you, John, I guess I was more optimistic and hopeful in this regard. Like I always imagined the right person could negotiate peace in the Middle East, which we always heard about that being, sort of an existential threat is the potential violence in that region. But I don't think I ever thought aliens would bring us together.
No.
Craig says he wasn't afraid of aliens, but what he was afraid of was slee stacks.
Goddamn slee stacks.
Craig's gone. Craig just
they kind of freaked me out too. Yeah.
That's all for Craig.
Oh, come back, Craig. It's okay. It's just John.
Relax, dude. It's just me.
I'll just rattle through this list here quickly. Buckaroo Banzai, Critters, Cocoon, Maximum Overdrive, Flight of the Navigator, Howard the Duck, Invaders from Mars, Predator, The Hidden. I love The Hidden. I'm surprised they haven't redone The Hidden yet.
Oh.
What?
Howard the Duck was a humorous inclusion.
Yes,
I know
it's an alien.
I know it counts. I know it counts, but it's just
like I said, some of these are look, this is what I'm talking about. All the subgenres in here. Where did I go? A Battery's not included. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. They Live. Alien Nation. My mother is an alien. My stepmother is an alien, rather. Earth Girls Are Easy, Mac and Me, The Blob, and Communion I have on here. Interestingly enough, about 5 or 6 of these are throwbacks or remakes of 1950s films. So just like we talked about before, that these is a lot of folks were taking a chance to do over the 50s.
Yeah. You're talking movies. I see Keith in the chat calling out Alf. Yeah, he needs his respect. That's
plenty of TV shows too. Yeah.
And Mork and Mindy was mentioned. Yeah, by Kathy. Yeah.
I was limiting it to movies, but to plenty of TV shows. Anyway, I don't know to what extent you guys have seen any of these, but
I missed a lot of them. I just want to point out, Marcus says aliens won't make him like other people.
But they might make the other people like him. You know? It's not a one-way street. So maybe they'll come around to appreciating his gruff exterior. You never know.
Go. Yeah. But regardless of how many of these you've seen, is once again it's time to play.
You
gotta be kidding.
Oh boy.
All right, so
yikes.
I have got 2 of the films I mentioned there are E.T. and Mac and Me.
Okay.
I've got 10 facts. I don't know if that sounds a little strong.
Kind
10
of the same
things
movie. All right.
that happened in these films. I want you to tell me whether it was E.T. or Mac and Me or both.
Okay.
All right. We could just go back and forth here. Okay.
John,
so
this is going to be all you.
No.
It's been so long.
You want to
since
just put John in the hot seat here, Kat?
No. You're sharing the pain, Kat.
All right, we'll just go back.
No,
and
I want to
forth
play.
here.
I want to play. It's
All right,
just been so long since I've seen E.T. and I don't know if I saw Mac and Me. So,
all right. Well,
if you've
at
seen
least
E.T.,
know if
you
it's
don't need
not
to see
E.T.
Mac and Me.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's will it happen in both is going to be the puzzler because I'm not that familiar with Mac and Me.
No.
E.T., Mac and Me, or both. Kat, we'll start with you.
Okay.
An alien is left behind.
Oh, E.T. I don't know about Mac and Me. Both, I guess. Oh no.
Again,
John,
if you've seen one, you've seen them both. You can guess that the alien was left behind. Mac and Me was a copy of E.T.
John, the alien is rescued by a family in California without a father in the home.
That is so damn specific, you lawyer. Like just every little nugget of that, like it's actually in Seattle.
It's not a trick.
I know what happened in E.T.
Okay.
I know what happened in E.T. So I'm just going to say E.T. just on the hope that one of those little details didn't happen in Mac and Me. So
there you go. No, it's identical. They're both
identical. See, I told you, Kat. They're the same damn movie.
Kat,
you'd think they'd change a few things.
The boy that finds the alien, Kat, is in a wheelchair.
Oh, Elliot was not in a wheelchair. Mac and Me.
Yes, Mac and Me, right. John, the alien loves Skittles.
Mac and Me.
That's right. But they both.
It's Reese's Pieces here on Earth, on the real movie of E.T.
Different product placement.
On the real movie.
Kat, the alien. The boy takes the alien into the wilderness so he can phone home.
Well, definitely E.T. Okay. I'm a little scared if I'm not saying both, but I'm just gonna say E.T.
Both.
Oh no.
Ridiculous carbon copy. Unbelievable.
John, they disguised the alien in a costume.
Oh.
It would be ridiculous to copy all that other detailed stuff and not copy the most general thing possible, like hiding the alien somehow. And he didn't say the giveaways. You didn't say Halloween costume, so I'm going to say it was both.
That's right, both.
Yes.
I'm not as tricky as all this.
He was cringy.
Kat, a car chase leads the alien to reveal he has superpowers.
Oh, heck, I'll just say both.
Yeah, that's right, both.
Oh my gosh.
Told you.
John, it features an extended dance number.
Mac and Me.
That's right. It's so awful too.
Oh my gosh. I have to see this.
Kat, don't.
No, you don't.
You don't.
No.
Seriously. It's one of those things.
Oh boy.
The dance number happens in a McDonald's. It's like 4.5 minutes long. Slowly but surely, all the customers start getting involved. The alien Mac is in a costume at this point, just like a teddy bear, I think.
Okay.
He starts like breakdancing on the counter of the McDonald's. It's terrible.
Is it?
You
on
should have gotten
YouTube?
dressed up as a fry guy. That was a missed product placement. There.
Right.
Yes, he's the right height and everything.
Or a hamburger or whatever. Yeah.
Hamburger was a little tall. Fry guy would work. Grimace,
Kat,
Grimace is too bulky.
Kat, the boy who saves the alien almost dies.
Oh, I'm going to say both.
That's right.
Thank you,
And John,
John.
finally, the alien returns home.
I'm going to say both.
Only in
no.
E.T.
Oh,
Don't
Mac
remember how
and
Mac
Me.
and Me ended.
Mac and Me. His parents come back. So we got full-sized aliens with the horrible-looking costumes.
Oh.
And by the end of the film, they're getting sworn in as U.S. citizens.
Is that how it ended?
What?
And they drive off in a car together, and a little bubble appears saying, "We'll be back." They were not back.
I don't know that I made it to the end of Mac and Me. I know I've seen it. I don't know that I've seen it to the end.
Because you didn't see them get sworn in and drive away.
I definitely don't remember that at all.
Oh, man.
No.
Mac and Me was created by producer R.J. Lewis, who had produced prior to that The Karate Kid.
Oh.
And thought, I am on a roll here, fellas. Come on, let's go. What do you want to do next? And he thought, the way he explains it is, I wanted to give back to society. And he had done a lot of work with McDonald's. And so he wanted to do a film that would allow him to contribute the profit to the Ronald McDonald House. So he got the vendor who provided the hamburgers and lettuce and onions and secret sauce to McDonald's. McDonald's was their only customer to invest in this film. He got McDonald's. It's the only film ever McDonald's let them use their brand in it. So they have this scene at the McDonald's. Ronald McDonald, the actor who plays Ronald McDonald in the 80s commercials, is in the movie. Did you ever see a Ronald McDonald in the McDonald's? I never have.
No, never in person.
There's one there dancing along.
You ever had a birthday party at McDonald's where Ronald was there?
Oh, yeah, that's true. You're right. That's true. Yeah.
I was going to say.
Oh.
You missed out on a big chunk of 80s childhood if you didn't do that one.
Yeah, I never did either. Yeah.
No.
It opened August 12th, 1988 against Who Framed Roger Rabbit Big and Die Hard. It grossed a meager $6 million and vanished 2 weeks later.
Well, that's what happened because I was seeing Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Anyway. Hey, I want to tell you guys before we wrap up here. We got a few minutes here. This real true story. So look, in the 1950s, we talked about this. And after 47, all these stories of sightings kicked up. In the 1980s, something similar happened where we had folks sighting aliens. Something different happened, however, throughout the 40s and 50s and 60s with this Project Blue Book. At least initially, the government was taking these sightings seriously. What happened after, according to J. Allen Hynek, who was he was the science advisor on Project Blue Book. And according to Jerome Clark, who's a ufologist who I interviewed, who wrote a book about UFOs in the 1980s, the government, it seemed, made a switch. And they started to instead discredit and dismiss UFO sightings as silly nonsense. Everyone's crazy.
Wow.
But in spite of that, so unlike in the 40s when folks were treating these as serious news stories, in the 80s, they were largely dismissed. There was one, though, that this one dust-up, regarded as the Hudson Valley Flap, that the local reporters certainly took seriously. So I can almost use this as a true crime. I can imagine like New Year's Eve, 1982.
Oh boy,
yes,
here we go.
Yes.
But I'm not going to. But so the Hudson Valley is an
Is there
area.
a parrot in the story at all? As I need to know up front.
We already had dead fish. We need the parrot. We're good.
The food is raw human, consumed by aliens. So New Year's Eve in 1982 in the Hudson Valley, which is an area about 2 hours north of New York City, a retired police officer says he saw, I don't know, am I doing past tense or present tense? Reported seeing a V-shaped object with multiple colored lights gliding almost silently over his property. And I think he says it's only a couple 100 feet above him. It's not, terribly high as far as aircraft go. Soon, many other people come forward saying they saw the same thing. And by March 23rd of 1983, a few months later, a local newspaper was running a front page feature describing crowds of people claiming that they'd also seen this triangular object that was described as being as large as a football field.
Wow.
One of those witnesses, it's giant object. Some folks said it looked as big as a jet airliner. Other folks said it was large as a football field. Seemed to be a boomerang or a V or a triangular shape. One of the witnesses was an on-duty police officer who testified he had seen the object twice in a 45-minute period after his department received over 100 calls about it. He described it as this in the same way as others, including the fact that it seemed to stop midair, turn perpendicularly, and then zoom out of the way, out of view.
Right.
At no point, so this is what I'm talking about, sort of anomalous in the 1980s. At no point was any of this reporting, was there any suggestion that people were making up the stories or had misidentified something? They were taking it at their word. There's too many folks to deny it. They'd seen something.
Yeah.
As the story gets out, by November of 1983, people just flock there now, hoping to see this. And many people do. And the sightings continue to go on for another year or so. I think it goes into 84. Wow. And journalists, fan out to try to explore the possibility of what this could be other than extraterrestrials, right? They're going to try to rule everything out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they briefly think they have found a non-alien explanation. In June of 84, the Poughkeepsie Journal spoke to witnesses who accused stunt pilots with small aircraft of flying over the region in a close V-shaped formation. They even spoke to a police officer who claimed to have followed the planes back to a local airport and had spoken to one of the pilots who had admitted to pulling off the hoax. But these pilots were never named. No journalist could ever find any of these pilots.
Yeah.
In the paper made a point of including rebuttals from witnesses who said they couldn't possibly be planes. What I saw, the way they were turning, they were asynchronous. They hardly made a sound. Including folks who were aviation experts that said, no, I know planes. This couldn't be planes. John?
It was swamp gas. It was a weather balloon. It was an aurora borealis. It was anything but, right? Everything that I ever saw in the 80s was about debunking in some form or fashion.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, are we bunking again? Debunking?
We're debunking this time.
Okay.
We bunked last time. We're debunking.
Yeah.
Is that it? So in August of that year, the same newspaper covered the first ever UFO convention to take place in the Hudson Valley area. Had more than 500 people attended, and J. Allen Hynek, who I mentioned was the former science advisor to Project Blue Book, was the keynote speaker. And he had left Project Blue Book over disagreements of how they were handling these things. I think including the fact that they had started to, suggest that people were nuts for seeing UFOs. There was also another speaker who threw cold water on the idea that a small group of Cessna airplanes could be responsible for doing everything that happened. So sightings of this massive triangular object trail off and ended. And for the most part, those claiming to have seen a UFO at this time continue to be met with skepticism and derision. That is, Kat, until the now portion of this story. When I'm sure you're familiar.
We made it.
If you're familiar, you guys, I know John probably remembers this because it was the day he was like, I knew it. In 2017, the New York Times broke a story that $22 million of the military's $600 billion budget funded a nearly clandestine program that investigated UFOs, now known as UAPs.
What does that stand for now, the UAP?
It's an unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Oh, nice.
Something like that.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Well, the idea is that unidentified flying object implies that there is an object, where unidentified aerial phenomenon means, it could be swamp gas. It could be, it's just something in the sky that is a phenomenon. Phenomenon. Yes.
So it turns out for years, the Department of Defense had this division, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, that investigated reports of unidentified flying objects, run by a military intelligence official in the, they described the fifth floor of the Pentagon Sea Ring, deep within the building's maze. Even though the Department of the Department of Defense said that the program was shut down, backers of the program said it had continued to investigate the episodes brought to them by service members. And then more recently, as you folks know, we've had in the last couple of years, the government come out and confirm videos that were otherwise leaked that had been made by Air Force pilots and others. Confirmed some of them, but they certainly confirmed the existence, and they confirmed, that as far as what they know, it wasn't some sort of visual phenomenon, that there really was something there. And in most cases, they weren't sure what.
Which doesn't instantly validate that it was extraterrestrial, but just that they could not explain it away with something that wasn't absolutely unbelievable bullshit, right? Which often happened when Blue Book was in force.
Okay.
I think the most interesting one was a video that shows a glinting triangular object moving about the sky. which sounds, at least by the description, to be very similar to the one that we just talked about in the Hudson Valley flap. As of August 2021, the Pentagon resurrected a UAP investigations arm. It's no more a secret that the military has this. It is directed to, quote, to detect, analyze, and catalog UAPs that could potentially pose a threat to U.S. national security.
Yeah, that's just it. It's because even if it's not alien, it behooves the government to identify what it is, because what if it's an external force? You know, what if it's North Korea and developed a cigar-shaped floaty thing that could turn fast? You know, we need to know what it is instead of just go, you're crazy. It's nothing.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I suppose in their defense, they may have taken it seriously, but didn't want us to know that they did. For whatever reason, you know, that argument that maybe citizens are not ready to hear.
Panic. Yeah, the public is not prepared for the truth, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
I wonder, because we were talking about alien films in the 1980s, and often how they are used as a metaphor, you know, to express some other more worldly anxiety, fear, etc. If we have confirmation, like John hopes, that aliens exist and are visiting our planet, does that change? Are we able to have these alien films anymore? I mean,
I
think 100%. I've thought about it. Because now it changes the complexion of every film before.
Sure.
But let's say tomorrow there's a new race of aliens called, let's say the Muppets. Okay, just make up a name that's nonviolent. But they're called the Muppets. Coincidentally, just like Jim Henson's creation, they're called the Muppets. Whatever they look like.
Lawsuit coming.
But as soon as, sorry. Listen, I saw the Happy Time Murders. They have way bigger problems than me talking about the Muppets. Anyway, but as soon as you now establish that is also part of the norm, well, now you can do stories that are just not us or the Muppets. There's still always an external unknown. You know, you can have that. Was it Alien Nation? Was that the film where Sam Francisco got on the police force and they drink the curdled milk? Was that like they integrate, right? Yep. So it's a whole alien species that's now integrated with us. You're still going to have stories of the other that are not the two of us, right? It's not the Muppets, it's not humans. Sure. There's the other crazy aliens. So it would change because now it has more credence because we know there are other life forms out there. Now it just becomes more powerful fiction.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I guess it's the same like saying we know dinosaurs existed. What they looked like we're not necessarily in agreement on, but we have films about those still running amok. And
time travel, same thing. Like if time travel were invented tomorrow, it doesn't eliminate time travel stories. It just makes them have more gravitas and more weight. It's like, oh, that really could happen. Oh no, right?
Yep. Absolutely. I think John wants to be in the writing room.
Put him in the writing room.
Yes.
I think it's probably just a function of my age now. You know, so we've talked about this before, growing up in the era that we did, but being the age I am now, that I don't fear these things anymore. I almost expect that they're going to happen eventually, and I think maybe the 1980s prepared me for that. All of these things. But I did get a panic text from my daughter because one of these current news stories was like a Pentagon official believes that a mothership is in our galaxy. Did you see that story?
Oh,
no, I didn't see that.
Yes, I saw that.
That's great news.
I think John's an alien. John is definitely an alien.
My family.
He just put his poker face on.
You can't prove I'm an alien. You can't prove that I'm not part of the advanced force that is preparing us for aliens, but I'm not an alien.
I think I can prove it because I know your tongue functions unlike human tongues because you have the ability to taste salt in certain areas.
Different places. I know.
Yeah, different places.
Right over here, umami.
But the story, umami / what was it? Funyun. But the story, when you read into the story, it says, that there's the probability or possibility that there's a mothership out there. And I think they even, I don't know, I'll leave it at that. But my daughter texts me this article, like, what now? Like for her, it's this thing where it's, earth shattering. And I just wrote back to her like I do on so many of these stories. We went through this in the 1980s. They've been telling us since the 1980s these things were going to happen. I'm kind of just over it. And if it happens, we'll be fine.
So Will's text back was finally.
Finally. That's you. That's you texting your daughter finally.
Yeah, finally.
Well, there was this is probably just any teenager, right? Growing up, there was a period of time when you're a teen and you think, I got to be from another planet, right, man? I don't vibe with any of these other people. Certainly not my family.
Oh, yeah, that's where I'm an alien. Yeah.
What are you talking about? All
I
right.
just thought it was adopted.
Yep.
That's all.
Yeah, I took it to another place too. All right. Hey, that is the show.
Oh.
And our show is brought to you every week.
Yeah.
Thanks in part to our early adopters like Kathy Berg, who is here with us this whole
Yay.
time, and Rick Parker and Karen Fleeger. And thank you especially to our Secret of Our Success Level Patreon supporters like John Henderson and Craig Coletta and Marcus Taylor, who is also here with us tonight,
Thank
and
you.
Tony Great, and Brad Bowman, who is also here with us
Yay.
tonight.
That's right.
Way to go,
Thank you,
Brad.
guys.
Spread the love.
Yeah, and I am pleased to announce that even since our last episode, we've got two new folks joining us as patrons.
Yep.
Say hello to Nate Wallace. We know
Yay.
Nate. He's been a long time Facebook contributor and listener of the show. I confirm that folks do call him Nate, even though we see him as Nathan on the comments there.
I'm going to have a hard time with that. To me, he's Nathan Wallace.
And he said everyone calls him Nate, so I'm going to do that now too, Nate.
Okay.
And Nick Guillory as well has joined us.
Wow.
And Nick is, I think I shared with you guys, he had written us saying his favorite episode is the, Love Lessons Learned in 80s rom-coms, and suggested a similar show about 80s songs.
Oh, yeah. Let's do that. Let's do it.
Oh, yeah, we're going to do that. Thank you so much, Nate and Nick, for joining us. It's so very much appreciated. And grants to DOF for you too as well. And speaking of Brad and Marcus, because look, there's plenty of ways to support the show. If you aren't able to become a patron, share a comment, send us an email. Along those lines, even though these two gentlemen happen to be patrons, Brad and Marcus both sent us, following our Cocaine Bear story, this news headline: Coked up wild serval cat leaps from owner's car after arrested in Cincinnati. An exotic cat named Amory tested positive for cocaine.
Oh, man.
Unlike the bear we talked about, the cocaine cat's heart didn't explode. So this could have done some damage, maybe. It said it leapt from the car.
Yes.
Well, and did what, though? Leapt from the car and attacked someone,
captured.
or went running
Yeah,
because
I went up a
super
tree.
paranoid because he was on coke.
It went up a tree. I saw it in a tree. And then somebody decided to get it down.
Yeah.
And then in that process, the poor thing broke its leg. So it's being rehabbed.
It didn't feel it. Don't worry.
Yes.
Good point. Good point.
And Marcus also sent us, following our secret cover songs episode, he actually sent us the if you remember, I mentioned that I would love to have seen the Prince and Shaka Khan moment where they performed I Feel For You together in concert.
Oh my God.
He found the clip, because we know he's a master of doing that, and he sent us a link to the video on YouTube, and he wrote the whole set is worth the time, but I Feel For You is at about 9 minutes and 10 seconds in, and it is fantastic. Does not disappoint.
Will you
Is
share?
that something you can throw down in the show notes for me and anyone else who would care to see it?
Yeah, I could do that. You mean the show notes, like right here in our chat here?
I mean, in the podcast show notes.
Oh,
So if
podcast
someone
listening.
listening
Oh,
can
yes,
go,
the show notes.
I want to
Yes,
see
very
that
good.
too.
Yes, very good. I will put that in the show notes along with
That'd be
anything
cool.
else down there below.
And will somebody please send me an email? I really want just one. Somebody send me an email. Okay?
Right. Cat. K-A-T.
Where's my phone? I'm going to do it right now.
1980snow.com. All right. Next time, a cat will have received an email, and we'll read it on the show. When we talk to you next time on the show, it's all going in. Hey, we will talk to you next time on 1980s Now.
Until next time.
Bye-bye. Nanu, nanu.
Do, do,